Solutions Review is on location at Commvault GO in Nashville, Tennessee. Brought to you by Commvault.
We are here at Commvault GO 2018 with Matt Tyrer, Senior Manager Solutions Marketing for Commvault. We're talking about GDPR because when we were here last year, GDPR was about 6 months away. We're here again this year. Yep. GDPR has been implemented for 6 months. And we have a whole host of customers out here with a whole bunch of data that I'm sure are in various conditions of compliance. What are you seeing with regard to where things are right now?
I think what we're seeing is a lot of people still kind of struggling with, well, what is a state of compliance kind of thing. It's not like it's a one-time thing like what we had with Y2K where it's like, okay, everything's fixed and now I can move on. It's like this living thing where it's more of a process or a series of processes around, okay, how am I taking care of my data? How am I tracking what data I have? How am I able to actually respond to any kinds of requests about that data? Do I know what data I have and where it is? So to your point, there's a lot of people kind of in varying degrees, and when I talk to people inside EMEA and outside EMEA, I see even some people that are sitting there going, well, it doesn't apply to me because I operate in Canada or I operate in the US and this is a European law. But which I completely disagree with and think that everybody should be taking some step towards making sure that their data, in terms of the data that they are custodians of, is well managed.
Well, so I think what we saw immediately was a bunch of superficial compliance on websites that were, asking for your, acceptance of a cookie policy or things
Exactly.
that were fairly superficial, but really the biggest problem, and the problem you guys know well, is it's the deep, much more complex problem of where the data is, what the data is, and what you're required to keep and what you're quite frankly not able to keep.
Right, and also it's kind of the response to any kind of incident too. So I look at it as almost the second level of disaster recovery planning. Now, this is you need to have a plan in place for when something happens. Not what if. When is something going to happen? Especially
and when are they going to start to enforce? Right, because right now I got to believe there is just so many people out of compliance that they could probably throw a dart and hit almost anybody, and they can't enforce everything.
And part of it is just the kind of the grayness around, well, what is compliance? What are the rules? Because they didn't really set out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G kind of thing. That's kind of a little bit more fuzzy in terms of what the definitions are. So even people that are actively making these steps forward, there's still this grayness around, okay, is that actually the right, am I being compliant kind of thing? And there's no one thing that's going to all of a sudden, hey, magic button, now I'm compliant. So it's really about just getting your house in order and making sure, okay, do I know where everything is? And I think that's step one.
Well, and I think you're right. I think a lot of companies have done that superficial step, figuring, well, if anybody's going to check on us, they're going to go to our website, see that our cookie policy accepting icon pops up, and we're good. They will leave us alone. But in reality, they have a lot more work to do underneath all of that, and so what does that mean for a Commvault customer?
Well, I mean, for us, for customers of ours, the advantage is because we're able to see data from on-premises, cloud, different data types, regardless of location. We're already enabling them on that front in terms of taking care of step one. What data do you have? Where is it? And once you've got that under wraps, now you can start to build action and process against it, kind of like what Bob was talking about through the Commvault Activate, in terms of, now I've got that data, what do I need to do with it? Being able to look through it and understand, what data I have, what's the nature of that data, and try and secure and make sure that, I don't have an exposure where I've got, PII or other personal data that's sitting somewhere it shouldn't be. So, from a Commvault perspective, it's giving our customers that one line of sight on their data, that ability. So.
Well, and I think what what GDPR might be doing in terms of kind of a blessing in disguise is driving data professionals to really take a hard look at how they look at their data.
I agree. I look at it as a very positive thing. Like, if anything, it's forcing people to take steps they should have been doing anyway in terms of, well, how do I take care of other people's data? Like I said, the use of the word custodian, like I am a caretaker of my customers' data. So am I taking care of their data well? So to your point, I think the positive of it is GDPR and similar regulations are getting people to actually think about these things instead of just kind of it being a laissez-faire approach to it. Yeah.
Well, and it's only spreading, right? I mean, ultimately it started with EMEA, but it's really it's getting more far-reaching.
Oh, right. I mean, you look at a lot of other countries like Japan, South Africa, Mexico, Brazil, even Canada. We're updating our PIPEDA laws that come in with new enforcement in November. So, like, you're seeing that cascade effect of other people responding to, oh, okay, well, we need to now have our own laws, or look at our own house and say, okay, well, what steps do we need to do to make sure that people in our country or dealing with our citizens are taking care of their data correctly as well.
So what would you offer as a piece of advice to somebody who's kind of whistling past the graveyard right now? Maybe done a little superficial, but they really know deep down inside that there's more, that they're vulnerable to. What would you give them for advice?
I think I would start with that idea of the planning, in terms of, if you've got a process in place whereby, as new data sources or targets are coming online, you can easily categorize them and prioritize them. So again, sticking with the what do you have, knowing your data. So making sure that you've got that plan. So it's like, if somebody says, do you know where all, kind of like, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your kids are? It's like, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where all your data is? And if you can answer yes, now you can start doing these other things. So I think the first thing is, from an advice perspective, try and have as easy a view on your whole data set as possible. So if you have to look in like 4 different places to get a state of the union, you're just, making more complexity for yourself.
Call Commvault.
Yeah, call me. Hi, Ray.
Well, this is great. It's a fascinating topic. Certainly one that will be challenging companies going forward. Appreciate your perspectives on it. And
no problem.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Great. Take care.